Mark Rodriguez had always prided himself on maintaining a pristine backyard pool in the quiet Oak Ridge Estates subdivision. A freelance graphic designer who worked from home, he enjoyed the tranquility of his meticulously landscaped property. At 38, Mark had moved to the neighborhood 3 years ago, seeking a peaceful environment after a tumultuous divorce that had left him craving stability and personal space. The pool was more than just a recreational feature for Mark, it was his sanctuary. Designed with a unique saltwater ecosystem and surrounded by carefully curated landscaping, it represented his fresh start. Native grasses bordered the edges and strategically placed rocks created natural filtration zones that kept the water crystal clear. On weekends, he would spend hours sketching design concepts by the poolside, finding inspiration in the gentle ripples and reflections. The Oak Ridge Estates subdivision was the epitome of suburban perfection. Rows of identical two-story houses with manicured lawns, pristine driveways, and an underlying current of competitive maintenance. Each homeowner seemed locked in an unspoken battle to have the most immaculate property on the street. The neighborhood's Homeowners Association, HOA, was the self-appointed arbiter of this suburban aesthetic, with rules so detailed they specified the exact shade of white allowed for exterior paint and the maximum height of front yard decorative grasses. Diane Hartwell, the 62-year-old HOA board president, was the unquestioned monarch of this miniature kingdom. A retired school administrator with perfectly coiffed silver hair and a perpetual disapproving expression, she took her role with absolute seriousness. Her weekly neighborhood inspections were legendary. Residents would nervously trim their lawns and adjust their window treatments, hoping to avoid her critical eye and potential violation notices. Mark had initially tried to maintain a cordial relationship with Diane and the HOA board. He attended meetings, paid his dues promptly, and always ensured his property met every single regulation. But something about Diane's constant scrutiny and her apparent joy in issuing minor infractions rubbed him the wrong way. She seemed to take particular pleasure in finding the smallest imperfections, whether it was a slightly overgrown rosebush or a trash can left out 5 minutes too long past the designated collection time. Little did Mark know that his meticulously maintained pool and property would soon become the battleground for a conflict that would expose the toxic underbelly of suburban community politics. The Eels were coming, and with them, a story that. The first incident occurred on a Tuesday morning in late June. Mark discovered something was wrong when he stepped out to his pool for his customary morning maintenance routine. The carefully balanced ecosystem he'd spent months perfecting looked disturbed. Delicate water plants were uprooted, and strange markings lined the pool's edge. Thin, serpentine trails that didn't match any local wildlife he recognized. At first, Mark dismissed it as a raccoon's nighttime mischief. He meticulously cleaned the pool, replanted the disturbed vegetation, and checked his filtration system. As a graphic designer, he approached problems methodically, breaking them down into smaller, manageable components. He photographed the damage, noting the precise locations of the disturbance and the peculiar markings. By the weekend, the situation escalated. His neighbor, Tom Peters, a retired marine biologist who occasionally consulted for local wildlife preserves, stopped by for their weekly Saturday morning coffee. Tom's keen eye immediately noticed something unusual about the pool's ecosystem. "Those aren't natural disturbances," he muttered, examining the pool's edge with a professional scrutiny. Tom's assessment sent a chill down Mark's spine. The marine biologist pointed out subtle signs of intentional disruption. Someone or something had deliberately introduced foreign elements into the carefully maintained environment. The markings suggested something more sinister than random animal interference. Mark began to keep a detailed log. He installed a basic trail camera, positioning it to capture any nighttime activity. The first few nights revealed nothing unusual, just the occasional neighborhood cat prowling near the pool fence or a raccoon scurrying past. But the disturbances continued. Each morning he would find new signs of intrusion: displaced rocks, unusual debris, and most disturbingly, small puncture marks along the pool's liner that seemed deliberate. His initial suspicions fell on local teenagers or perhaps a disgruntled neighbor. Oak Ridge Estates might look picture-perfect from the outside, but Mark knew enough about suburban dynamics to understand that beneath the manicured lawns and pristine facades, tensions often simmered. When he mentioned the incidents to his HOA board contact, hoping for some assistance or investigation, he was met with bureaucratic indifference. "Maintenance issues are the homeowner's responsibility," came the standard response from the association's management company. It was Tom who first suggested something more sinister might be at play. "Someone's targeting you deliberately," the marine biologist warned during one of their weekend coffee discussions. "These aren't random acts. This feels calculated." Mark found himself caught in a growing sense of unease. His pool, once a sanctuary of peace and creativity, was becoming a battlefield of unknown origin. Little did he know that the real challenge was just beginning, and the culprit was closer than he could have ever imagined. The day before the first eel appeared, Mark noticed a series of photographs had gone missing from his home office. images of recent HOA meetings where he had documented some questionable maintenance decisions by the board. The connection wasn't clear yet, but something was definitely wrong. The eels arrived without warning, transforming Mark's nightmare from abstract concern to concrete horror. The first morning he discovered them, he counted 6 live eels swimming lazily through his carefully cultivated saltwater ecosystem. They were not native to the area, nor to any local pet store's inventory. Each eel was approximately 18 inches long, their sleek bodies moving with an almost deliberate menace through the crystalline water. Mark immediately contacted local wildlife experts, pet stores, and even the county's marine biology department. No one could explain the sudden appearance of these creatures. Tom Peters examined the eels with professional curiosity, his marine biology background proving invaluable. "These aren't just random eels," he told Mark, carefully extracting one specimen for closer examination. "These look like they've been deliberately introduced, and they're not cheap. Someone spent money to do this." The financial impact was immediate and significant. Mark's custom pool ecosystem was now compromised. The eels were consuming the carefully balanced microorganisms, destroying the delicate filtration system he had spent thousands of dollars designing. His weekly maintenance costs skyrocketed as he attempted to manage the unexpected invasion. Worse still, the HOA began to take notice, but not in the way Mark hoped. Instead of investigating the incident, Diane Hartwell sent him a formal violation notice. Apparently, the presence of the eels was considered a maintenance issue that violated multiple HOA bylaws about pool conditions and potential health hazards. Mark started documenting everything. He created a comprehensive file, photographs of the eels, expert consultations, maintenance records, and a detailed timeline of events. Something about the precision of the attacks felt personal. This wasn't random vandalism. This was targeted harassment. The neighborhood began to take notice. Whispers spread during HOA meetings and community gatherings. Some neighbors avoided Mark, worried about potential controversy. Others looked at him with a mixture of sympathy and suspicion. The Rodriguez property was becoming the center of increasingly bizarre drama. Tom suggested Mark install more sophisticated surveillance equipment. "This isn't random," he repeated. "Someone wants to send you a message." Together, they mapped out potential camera locations that would capture any nighttime intrusions without violating HOA guidelines about exterior modifications. As weeks passed, the eel incidents became more frequent and more calculated. Mark would wake up to find new eels in the pool, always arriving with a precision that suggested deliberate action. The creatures were not just surviving, they were thriving in an ecosystem they shouldn't inhabit. Financial strain began to mount. Mark consulted with pool restoration experts, wildlife removal specialists, and eventually a lawyer. Each consultation cost money, each expert more puzzled than the last. The eels represented more than just a nuisance. They were a calculated attack on his property and peace of mind. His graphic design work began to suffer. The stress of the ongoing situation made it difficult to concentrate. Client deadlines became challenging, and the once peaceful home office now felt like a war room filled with evidence boards and surveillance equipment. Mark knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was far from over. Someone was playing a dangerous game, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Mark invested nearly $3,000 in a state-of-the-art surveillance system that would make even professional security firms take notice. Working with Tom and a local security expert, he carefully selected cameras with multiple capabilities: infrared night vision, motion detection, high-resolution imaging, and cloud storage to prevent any evidence from being tampered with or destroyed. The installation was a delicate operation. Every camera had to be positioned to comply with HOA regulations. No camera could be seen as invasive or violating the neighborhood's strict aesthetic guidelines. Mark spent weeks planning the perfect setup, consulting Tom about blind spots and potential intrusion points. They mapped out every potential approach to his pool, considering everything from the fence line to the overhead tree branches. Initially, the nights passed without incident. Mark would wake up each morning, check the footage, and find nothing but occasional raccoons and neighborhood cats passing by. The monotony was almost more frustrating than the eel incidents. He began to wonder if he was losing his mind, if the stress was causing him to imagine elaborate conspiracies. Then, on the 14th night of surveillance, everything changed. The footage captured at 2:37 a.m. was crystal clear. A figure dressed in dark clothing approached the pool area with deliberate, practiced movements. The person moved with a familiarity that suggested intimate knowledge of the property, knowing exactly where the cameras were positioned, carefully avoiding direct lines of sight. But the most shocking moment came when the figure's hood fell back slightly. For just a fraction of a second, Mark could see enough to recognize Diane Hartwell, the HOA board president he had suspected all along. Mark spent hours reviewing the footage, creating multiple backups, and documenting every single detail. He captured screenshots, created timestamp compilations, and even had Tom verify the authenticity of the recordings. The marine biologist's forensic eye confirmed what Mark suspected. This was no random act of vandalism, but a calculated and persistent campaign of harassment. The video showed Diane carefully releasing what appeared to be a bag of live eels into the pool. Her movements were precise, almost clinical. She seemed to take a moment to look around, not with the nervousness of someone committing a crime, but with the calculated confidence of someone who believed they were above suspicion. Mark discovered something else during his intensive review. The timestamps revealed a pattern. The intrusions always happened on nights when he had a major design project deadline. The eels weren't just a nuisance. They were a strategic attack designed to disrupt his life and work. He began to piece together a potential motive. Months earlier, Mark had publicly questioned some of the HOA's maintenance contracts at a board meeting. He had discovered potential financial irregularities, contracts awarded to companies with suspicious connections to board members. Diane had been particularly defensive during that meeting, her silver hair practically quivering with anger. Now he had proof, not just of the eel incidents, but of a systematic attempt to sabotage his property and livelihood. The monthly HOA board meeting became a battlefield of suburban justice. Mark arrived precisely at 7 p.m., his leather messenger bag carefully packed with hard drives, printed screenshots, and a meticulously prepared presentation. Tom Peters accompanied him, offering silent support and professional credibility. The community room at the Oak Ridge Estates clubhouse buzzed with its usual pre-meeting chatter. Board members discussed landscaping contracts and upcoming community events, completely unaware of the storm about to break. Diane Hartwell sat at the head of the table, her perfectly pressed blazer and immaculate silver hair embodying her reputation for control and precision. Mark requested to speak during the open forum, his voice calm but firm. He connected his laptop to the overhead projector, the first image revealing a time-stamped video of Diane releasing eels into his pool. The room fell silent, a collective intake of breath rippling through the assembled neighbors. For months, Mark began, I've been the victim of systematic harassment. These are not random incidents, but a deliberate campaign to disrupt my property and livelihood. He methodically presented evidence, financial records showing the cost of pool repairs, expert testimonies about the deliberate nature of the eel introductions, and most damning of all, the video evidence. Tom stepped forward, his marine biology credentials lending scientific weight to Mark's claims. He explained the biological impossibility of the eel's repeated appearances, highlighting the calculated nature of their introduction. These aren't accidental releases, Tom stated. Someone went to significant trouble and expense to acquire and introduce these specific eels. The other board members shifted uncomfortably. Mark had done more than just make an accusation. He had built a comprehensive case. He revealed additional evidence of financial impropriety within the HOA, connecting the dots between Diane's harassment and her apparent attempts to intimidate him after his previous questions about contract awards. Diane's composure began to crack. Her perfectly manicured exterior showed the first signs of strain, a slight tremor in her hand, a flush creeping up her neck. When asked to explain the video, she initially attempted to deflect, then to deny, and finally resorted to attacking Mark's character. He's exaggerating, she stammered. These are baseless accusations. But the evidence was irrefutable. Other longtime residents began to share their own stories, whispered accounts of similar incidents of Diane's long-standing pattern of aggressive behavior that had gone unchecked for years. Mark's systematic approach had finally given voice to a community's suppressed frustrations. The board president of the HOA, a retired judge named Robert Harrison, listened with increasing concern. He examined the evidence carefully, his legal background demanding rigorous proof. Mark had provided exactly that, a meticulously documented case that left no room for reasonable doubt. As the meeting progressed, it became clear that this was about more than just eels or a single incident of property damage. It was about accountability, about a pattern of behavior that had gone unchallenged for too long. The quiet suburban world of Oak Ridge Estates was about to change forever. Mark stood at the center of the room, surrounded by neighbors who were seeing their community leadership in a new light. The carefully maintained facade of perfection was cracking, revealing the complex human drama beneath. The fallout from the HOA meeting was swift and unprecedented. Within 48 hours, Diane Hartwell was not only removed from the HOA board, but faced multiple legal challenges. The local homeowners association bylaws, which she had wielded like a weapon for years, now turned against her. Mark's meticulously documented evidence became the cornerstone of both an internal review and potential criminal investigation. Legal proceedings began almost immediately. The county's Consumer Protection Office opened an investigation into the HOA's contract awarding processes triggered by the financial irregularities Mark had uncovered. Tom Peters provided expert testimony breaking down the biological and financial implications of Diane's actions with scientific precision. Mark's pool became a symbol of resilience. He invested in complete restoration, transforming the damaged ecosystem into an even more impressive feature of his property. Local landscaping and marine biology experts consulted on the project, turning his backyard into a showcase of sustainable design and environmental harmony. The neighborhood underwent a dramatic transformation. Other longtime residents, emboldened by Mark's stand, began to speak up about years of suppressed grievances. The HOA underwent a complete overhaul, with new leadership committed to transparency and fair treatment of homeowners. Community meetings became genuine forums for discussion rather than exercises in bureaucratic control. Financially, Mark was fully vindicated. The legal settlement not only covered his pool restoration costs, but also compensated him for lost work and emotional distress. His graphic design business, which had suffered during the months of harassment, experienced a renaissance. Ironically, the media attention brought him new clients who admired his methodical approach and determination. Tom Peters became a local hero of sorts, celebrated for his role in exposing the truth. His expertise and unwavering support of Mark throughout the ordeal earned him respect throughout the community. What had started as a neighborly friendship transformed into a powerful alliance that changed the neighborhood's dynamics. Diane Hartwell's fall from grace was complete. Her network of influence crumbled as more stories of her past behavior came to light. Former board members and longtime residents who had previously been too afraid to speak out now shared their experiences freely. She became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power in small communities. The most significant change, however, was cultural. Oak Ridge Estates transformed from a rigidly controlled suburban environment to a more collaborative, supportive community. Neighbors who had previously only exchanged perfunctory waves now engaged in genuine conversations. The shared experience of confronting systemic bullying had created an unexpected sense of unity. Mark found an unexpected peace in the aftermath. The ordeal that had threatened to destroy his life had instead made him stronger, more connected to his community. His home was no longer just a place of work and residence. It was a testament to resilience, justice, and the power of methodical, patient confrontation. As for the Eels, they became a running joke in the neighborhood. Local children would occasionally ask Mark about the Great Eel Incident. He would smile, a reminder of a battle fought and won through persistence, evidence, and unwavering integrity.